Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Runo. I'll be showing you how to make this neck pleat and then the bow on both sides of the down part. So for this tutorial, my emphasis will be on just the neck pleat design and then the bow on the bow by the side. So this is my pattern. My pattern is on fold. So your center front will be on fold. On fold, what I mean by on fold is I folded my paper and then I drafted my bodies. Okay, so I'm adjusting the neck. I came down the shoulder. I got my bust length, and then I got my bust point line and then my waistline, and then I imputed my waist measurement. And then for the back is not on fold. Okay, and then my shoulder measurement, and then the shoulder, the front and the back is not the same. The front is longer. I have 17 inches for the front, while the back is 15 inches, so it's 15.5. So the 1.5 difference is what I use to make the bust dart. So the bust dart is what and is the difference between the front and the back. And by the time I close the bust dart, it will now match up. The sides of the back and the front will now match up. So I now traced, after drafting my front, I traced the bodies. Okay, I traced it and I wanted it to be on the other side. Okay, so and then I used my marker pen to trace it, to trace the lines. So you need the tracing wheel. So this is my full front. For this design, you need your full front. You can't do this on one part. Okay, so I have my full front, and then my back is just half of my back. I don't need my full front, so I'm drawing out the bust dart. That's my bust point line. I'm just drawing it out clearly, okay, so that you can see it. So we need all the design. All right, I already used the pencil. So for the center front, I'm drawing out the center front line. Okay, that's the center front, the midline. Okay, the midpoint. Okay, so on that center front line, I'll come in on the neckline, half inches on both sides, half inch on both sides, not inches, sorry. Okay, so half inch from the center line. That's my center front. That's the part that will be on fold for the center front. Okay, and then I connect it, you see, from the right, I'll connect to the left bust point, and then from the left, I'll connect to the right bust point. That's on the neckline. You can see what I'm doing. Just follow what I'm doing. Okay, I need you to pay attention to this part. So we'll be moving all the darts to the neckline. We'll close the waist dart, we'll close the bust dart, and then we'll move it to the neckline. Okay, so I use my paper tape to tape the bust point because we want to close the dart. So I don't want the bust point to open, to separate. Okay, that's why I use my paper tape, so that by the time I slash it, it's going to be firm. And then I use my scissors to cut out my pattern. So the center front alone, I cut it out. So I'm now closing the waist dart. Okay, so I cut one of the dart leg. You can cut any of the dart leg. Okay, and then I cut one of the bust dart, and then I'll close my bust dart. I'll close my waist dart, sorry. So the waist dart now has been moved to the bust dart. Okay, that's the bust dart is also underarm because it's directly under the arm. So I call it underarm dart as well. Okay, now it's time to move the bust dart to the neckline. You can see the way I slashed it. The line I drew is what I'm going to slash. So I mistakenly cut through. So I'm trying to tape it back. Okay, so just be careful not to cut through. And then you now close the dart. You now close the waist dart. You can see I moved from the waistline to the bust, and then from the bust and I'm moving it to the neckline. So you can see it's open now. The dart on that part has been moved to the neckline. Okay, so now repeat the same thing to this other side. Okay, I'll repeat the same thing to the right side. So I move my darts to the bust dart, and then I'll close my waist dart. Okay, I'll close the waist dart. See the way I'm closing it. I'll use my paper tape to tape it down. So this is how you close your waist dart. So there's no dart, there's no seam on there's no seam on the waistline. I didn't sew any waist dart, I didn't sew any bust dart. Now it's time to move the bust dart. Now you know that the waist dart is now on the bust dart. So now I'll now move the bust dart to the neckline. Okay, so I'll cut through the line, the slash line that I drew initially at the beginning, and then I will now close the bust that. Okay, so I'll close it. I can see that my dart has been moved to the neckline, so you now have the bust and the waist dart on the neckline. Then I placed another plain sheet of paper. You need a plain sheet of paper under it, so you're now going to redraw our neck, and then so it is the plain sheet of paper who draw out the neckline and then add our seam allowance, and that's what we transfer on our fabric. So I'm just drawing out my neckline design. You can see how I'm following it. Remember, the neck is now wider, so I'm adding seam allowance. I'm just doing a rough sketch first, and then I'll add seam allowance. So I'm adding my seam allowance. Okay, so make sure those lines I'm drawing are the notch lines. Those lines are very important because those are the parts that you'll be pleating. Those parts are very, very important, so you'll be notching them on our fabric. Okay, so after drawing adding the seam allowance, I'll cut it out. Okay, so I'll cut it out. The paper is just on the top part, it's not complete. Okay, and then I use my ruler to draw my line. So I'm extending the lines to the allowance. Okay, I'm extending it to the seam allowance, and then I extended the dart. Okay, so this is how you fold it. You pleat. Okay, so you pick one end and then you fold it to the other one. So we want to bring back our neck design back. Okay, we want to bring back our neckline. So our neckline should return back to original position, original way it was. Okay, so you pleat it back. So you can see I've now pleated it back. So I have successfully closed pleated the neckline, and then my neckline has returned back to normal, so that this neckline is no longer big, it's no longer wide, it is just the way it is. You can see the dart, my bust point is still showing. Okay, so because the dart has been moved to the neckline, so you still have your shape back. Okay, so this is just it basically. So I'm going to take out the pins and then I'll transfer to my fabric. So this is how I'm going to place it. Okay, so your fabric should be on full front. Make sure you place your fabric well, make sure it's not bent, and then you pin. When you pin, you add your seam allowance. So for the waist and the seam line, the waistline I'll add my 0.5, and then the side I'll add 1 inch on the waistline and 1.5 on the bust line. Okay, so I'm extending using the chalk to extend the lines. Okay, we already added seam allowance on the neckline alone. That was where we added seam, we didn't add on the waist and on the side. So I'm pinning the bust point. Okay, so that is where the pleat is going to end. So you need to point, because I'm going to chalk it, I'm going to use the chalk to mark it on the other side. I'm going to mark it. Okay, so I'm now cutting out the I'm cutting out my pattern on my fabric. You can see that I added seam allowance. Please, we didn't add seam allowance on the side, on the waist, on the pattern. Okay, so this is it. So I'm now using my chalk to chalk it down. So I'm marking it so that it will be easy for me to identify. We are not sewing. So funny enough, if you want to sew this dart, you can sew the dart. So you can decide to sew if you're sewing, but I'm not sewing. So I'm pleating it, and then I'll use my hem gum to just hold it down. So you can sew. When you sew, it will still give you the same, it will still come out well, right? Okay, so I use my pin also to pin the center part of the dart, of the opening of the neck pleat. Okay, that's where the pleat is going to meet. So that is where I need to mark that part, and then I'm pleating it. You can see I pleated it on my paper again with the fabric, and then I now remove the paper, and then I pinned it, and then I remove the paper, and then I pleat it. So when I pleat, I'm going to pin it. Okay, so you need pin to do this. You need pins, a good pin to be able to do this. Okay, make sure it's not those pins that will rip your clothes. Okay, so that's the bust point. I notched it already, so it wasn't very clear. That's why I use my chalk to mark it again so that I can see it very well. Okay, so you can see the way I'm pleating it now. I'm also pleating the second one. Okay, so and then I'll pin it down. Once you pleat, you pin. Okay, so after pinning, I will now use hot iron, steam iron. Make sure you don't burn it, and then I'll iron it down. Okay, once I iron it down, I will now use my hem gun on the other side to hold it down. The hem gun is not compulsory. I just want it because the fabric is not the one that can stay. Okay, so the fabric I use is crepe. Is crepe. So this is it. So I'm pinning my paper pattern. Okay, I'll pin the paper pattern, then I'll place it on the fabric to be sure that yes, what I got is the same, like my fabric and my pattern are the same. Okay, and then after pinning, I didn't take out the pin, so I want to cut facing. You need your facing to cut the neckline, so I left the pin to cut the face, so I'll be pleating the facing. Okay, I don't want to go through the stress. All right, so after cutting the facing, I discovered that the fabric is transparent, guys. So I decided to use the lining to cut the remaining part of the top. Okay, so I used lining for the top and the bottom part, right? So, and I already ironed the hem gum inside. Okay, so I'm taking out the pins just for you to see how it is. So I iron the hem gum, and then that is it for the front. Okay, so for the bow tie, the bow on the bottom part, so the I cut 20 inches length and 11 inches width. Okay, so this will be the one that will fall, like is like the tie that is going to fall, not the one that will form the bow. While the smaller one, the one that will form the bow, is is two piece each. So the other one is 16 inches long, and then the width is 6 inches. Okay, so this is the one that will use crinoline on. Okay, so everything is on fold, we are not joining, so you just fold it and then you sew it. So I actually used the crinoline measurement, and I added allowance, half-inch allowance. We are doing it on both sides. Okay, so I use the measurement of my crinoline, and then I'll cut the crinoline into two because I'm using it for both side. Okay, and then I placed it. So that was what I actually used to cut this part. Okay, and then I added seam allowance. So you need your crinoline to be firm on it. You are not supposed to sew on your crinoline, and you don't need it too small. If it's small, the crinoline is going to fold. Okay, and it's going to alter the shape. So you just need the exact measurement of your crinoline on fold, then plus your seam allowance. Then for the bigger one, that's the bow that is going to drop, I'm sewing the side. Okay, I'm marking the side, so it's going to give you that shape. Okay, so that shape is not a straight shape. You know how a belt is. So that's the shape I'm trying to get here. So I'm using my chalk to chalk it out, and then I'll cut, and then I'll go ahead and sew. So for the one that's going to have the crinoline, so I went ahead to sew. I sew out the seam allowance, and then the other one also I went ahead to sew it, and then I'll cut out the excess on the bow, on the one that the tie or the belt that is going to drop. Okay, so I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to cut the seam allowance, and then I'll turn it inside out. Okay, so I opened the middle part, so I'll be able to turn it. Okay, it's not like the other one that both ends are opened. Okay, so both ends have been sewn and closed, so I use my ripper to bring out the end, and then the middle parts I loosen it, and then I use it to turn it inside out. So for the straight piece, and then you're going to iron it in a way that the seam line is going to be on the center, on the middle. Okay, we don't want it on the side. Okay, so that will be the part that will be inside. We don't want to see the seam line. So I'm going to pass my, after ironing, please, you iron neatly. After ironing, I'm going to pass my crinoline. Okay, so then this is the belt that is going to drop on it, and then I went ahead to iron, and then I folded it, and then used my chalk to mark the middle. Okay, and then so I tuck it in, that this is a straight piece, and then I tuck it in a way that it's going to overlap each other. So, and then I use my needle and thread to tack it neatly. Okay, I don't want to sew it, so please, you tuck it in, and then you tack neatly with your needle and thread. You can see how neat it is. And then I held that part, and then I got the middle. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. So the part that is tacked will be on the one that will be facing the dress. Okay, while this other part I marked will be the one outside, so nobody's going to see whether it is tacked or not. Okay, so and then this part, for this other belt, the drop piece is going to be, you can see the part that is on fold is the part that will be that will be facing the up, that will be at the top. Okay, while the part that is sewn will be on the bottom. So the bottom is going to, the curvy part is going to be facing the bottom. Okay, so this tie, this little piece here is about 1 inch. So you cut 2 inch and then you unfold, you iron it flat. Okay, iron the seam line inside. Okay, and then so nobody will know how, just like the way you iron the straight one, and you just iron it, turn it in iron, and then you sew. So for this, I'm going to use needle and thread to sew. I'll use needle and thread to sew it firmly in a way that it's going to be so firm that it won't be able to move. Okay, so after which, this is it. You can iron the crinoline after passing it, and after tacking, you iron the bowl flat so it can be flat. But this is not flat here. It wasn't flat here, and then you iron it. But if you like it the way it is swollen, you can leave it like this. So this is it, and then you attach it to your dress. You just tack it to your dress. So if you got value, please like, leave a comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.